Good morning. Hope you have a good start to your week. So, the last week the world's been fixated on Damar Hamlin, him collapsing in the middle of the Bills game, the Bills-Bengals game, and then subsequently on Wednesday morning when he woke up from his induced coma, he wasn't even able to speak yet, but they wrote him, and the first questions he asked was, who won? And the doctors say they answered him, you won the game of life. Powerful answer. But what is life? You know, it's interesting because last week's Torah portion was Vayechi, right? It speaks about Jacob's death, but it's called the portion of life. And the rabbis tell us that the reason is because life is not a physical thing. Life is a spiritual thing. And life is not necessarily the breathing, but what you do and the actions and the impact you have on this world. And although a person can expire and pass away, his impact continues to live. And in this week's Torah portion, we have something similar. We get introduced to Jewish exile. We leave Genesis and on to Exodus, where Pharaoh decrees something very interesting. Pharaoh says, he calls the midwives, who were Shifra and Puah, and he says to them, B'yalad chenes ivres, when you give birth to these children, when you help these women give birth, if it's a child, if it's a boy, kill him, throw him into the Nile. And if it's a girl, let them live. The rabbis are always focused on every nuance in the Bible and every word. And the rabbi asks a question, it seems extra. Why does the Torah tell us, and if it's a girl, let her live? Obviously, if you're not throwing her into the Nile, then you let her live. And the rabbi says something remarkable, that the Egyptians didn't mean just to let them live. They said, let them live and make sure they get influenced and steeped into Egyptian culture and promiscuity and idol worshipping, etc., etc. And the rabbis say, and the rabbi teaches us in one of his commentaries, that in a certain sense, that was a worse decree than the death, because the death was a physical death. But what he wanted for the woman, for the girls, was a spiritual death, that they should not have a life of value, a life of meaning, a life of importance. You know, it's interesting because when Damar Hamlin collapsed on the field, you know, the first thing we watched was two things. Firstly, we watched all the players bow down and pray. Everyone kneeled in prayer for a few minutes. And then we saw all over the country, everyone was praying. Everyone was focused on praying. In fact, one ESPN analyst paused on national TV and started praying. And then the other thing was his GoFundMe, where we found that the GoFundMe, which was originally had a goal of $2,500, ended up being, I think it's near 8 million or plus. I haven't checked it lately. Everyone wanted to give charity. When life was in question, they did something that in Judaism is the basic of what we do. What do we do when someone's sick? We make a mishaberach, we pray. And then we do acts of goodness and kindness, charity. And here he saw the entire world united when life was in question for charity, for good deeds, and for prayer. What does it tell us? Vayechi Yaakov. The connection of these two portions. We start from Vayechi, where we recognize that life is not physical necessarily. And we go on to the story of the midwife Shifra and Puah, who were actually Yocheved and Miriam, Moses' mother and sister, where they were decreed not just to kill the boys, but to spiritually kill the girls. And they refused. They recognized the value of life. Vayechi, what's life? Yes, is the first thing after you get up. Who won the game? You won the game of life. But now what are you going to do with that life? How are you going to make sure that there's meaning and impact to the life you live? Have a great day. See you.